Hello folks, welcome to Gelvin Valley once more. We are on Farming Simulator 15 down at this sheep farm created by Wild Wes. Not just the farm, the whole bloomin' map. And I gotta say I'm pleased. I wanted to start here before continuing harvest. As you can see, I am running out of money. I'm already negative. And here, if I step inside our barn, I see lots and lots of wool coming. I gotta say I'm really pleased. I didn't know I had this much up here, but then again, oops, trying to mess with one of the poles there. So almost, well, I got an extra one over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times 3, 15. I don't remember how many pallets will sit on a trailer, but I'm very pleased. Of course, when I take it down there to sell it, I'll probably be disappointed at how little I make. But actually, let me see here. I got, how many more rows is that? Is that 2 more rows I can fit? So maybe, yeah, looks like 2 rows. So maybe I can get through harvest, and I'll just head out now. Gonna head on around. There's this. Here's a good old combine. Continue with canola. Look at this. Yeah, I'll maybe do it post-harvest. Here now we have a hill. I've seen this before, and I think when the header is left down, when you save the game, you know, it auto-connects, and I think when it presses down, maybe that it, yeah, before I get in to control it or whatever, it's it just zips down the hill. That's kind of funny. I saw it happen one other time, but I think I moved it before starting the video. So yeah, I'm gonna watch my money go down a little bit. Kind of as mentioned before, I'm wondering if I'll ever again rent this expensive equipment. And you know, because I probably didn't put in the right hours to begin with, every additional hour I'm just paying through the nose. You know, I think, you know, the charge when you don't have the correct time estimate. Hey pal, come up the hill. Why? Oh, I see. Maybe it's because my header wasn't up. It's kind of on a steep slope. So probably in the future I'll be back to my little combine, you know, which can handle a hill such as this better anyhow. But live and learn. In the meantime, I'll bleed. And you know, that'll just follow a familiar pattern. All I've done in here is lose a lot of money, it seems. But I don't know what, it'll be a little bit before I sell the wool. So probably by the time anybody sees this episode, I'll know, you know, just what kind of money can be made with the wool. Probably not as much as I would hope. But we shall see. Anyway, I don't even remember off the top of my head what topic I had that I visited about last time. This time here, I don't know, there's a part of me that doesn't even want to touch this with a 10-foot pole. Maybe part of it is telling on yourself, and some of it is some befuddlement. Because it, you know, I'm 50 currently. I'll be turning 51 this summer. So probably to some that listen, you know, I'm an old geezer. And the incident I'm thinking of, or not really incident, the time era I'm thinking about harkens to my high school years. So back when I would have been, let's see, was that 14 to 17, 14, 15, 16, 17, yeah, up those 4 years is, whoops, hey, turn off. Oh, silly, I hit the wrong button. I hate it when I hit the H for higher. Maybe I'll go dump this and head on to the next field. Okay, I know probably most of us would admit we're not perfect. We make mistakes. We have made them. But I would also say most of us probably don't go around talking about them or even dwelling upon them. Maybe it's just something the human psyche doesn't like to do. Maybe we're careful who we admit to, the things that we've done. Whatever. And I know here of late there's been a lot of talk of the impact of bullying in schools, and that's kind of a whole other story. I almost think I've shared some of that in here, with some of the things I did to my brothers, my growing up years. I can't remember what all I shared. Let's just say oh great, going through a gate. I have some very loving and forgiving brothers, and I'm very thankful they haven't held against me some of the things that I did to them when I was younger and much dumber than I even am now, if you can imagine. But in high school, there was a group of us, and this is probably common, a group of friends, acquaintances, whatever you want to call it. I would say friends. That's kind of how I looked at it. We shared the same lunch period, so I think we had 2 lunches at our high school, so we all ate together, kind of a normal thing. And one of the kids, I don't even know how to properly describe it. Let's just say he was more of slight build. Alright, it got unlocked. And people I know, some people picked on him. I wouldn't put myself in that category. I just wouldn't. Because I didn't. The only thing I ever did to him, like I say, we were friends, we sat together, and I watched this kid, day after day, he would destroy his lunch. I think he was trying to be funny. And so, he would get done with whatever he was going to eat, and then he would drown everything in ketchup, make a horrible mess, and kind of laugh about it, and she was just goofing off. So, one day, when he wasn't, I don't know what it was, he got his lunch, and then he disappeared. Maybe he went to the restroom, he was called away. I really don't know what took place. Let's see, is there a room in here for me to go in? Yeah, it's a double gate. Alrighty. Cool. So I won't make a mess of anything here. Anyway, he disappeared, and so I think what went through my mind was also a desire to be funny, because I didn't mean this towards him as a person, to pick on him. I thought we were friends. But I made one little mistake that really screwed it up. So while he was gone, I destroyed his lunch. And so I don't remember what I did. Probably applied a liberal application of ketchup to it. I probably left a knife sticking out of his hamburger or whatever he was eating. That kind of thing. So, he came back and was trying to figure out what happened to his lunch. And at first, I lied. Just being honest here now. I told him someone else had done it. Another person who sat with us. And really, you got to understand something here. We were a bunch of nerds. That's probably who we'd be called. Anyway, that's looking back, I would say that's kind of what we were. Well, anyway, another one of the nerds, he had already left the table, so I blamed him for screwing up his lunch. And then I could tell he was getting kind of upset. So I finally admitted to it and told him I had done it. And I don't remember what he said. What I told him was I would get him a new lunch the following day. So the next day, I brought him money and I paid him for the lunch, that I destroyed. And I don't remember what I said. I'm assuming I said I was sorry, but I honestly don't remember. But I thought the incident was over, and evidently it wasn't. So, life went on. I still interacted with this kid. I don't even remember in what all. We both, for example, were in track. We had, I think, a similar math class. I mean, we were both in the same grade. So, we were. It was natural that, we'd be in similar classes. So I never perceived that he had anything against me. And then eventually we graduated high school and he went his way and I went mine. And I never imagined in a million years that he still had something against me. Ooh, it really doesn't want to turn into the field. So fast forward, I would say 20 years-ish. I think it was 20 years. And, there had been a 5-year reunion, I think a class reunion or whatever. I didn't go to it. I'm pretty sure there was a 10-year, and I didn't go to that. I haven't been to any class reunion, honestly. And so I was thinking of going to it. And there was about the only reason I've ever signed up for Facebook or that kind of thing was for things like this. So I could have a means of, I think there's a whole page set up for my high school group, kind of as a way to stay in contact, although I really have done a very poor job of it, to be honest. But anyways, it came up. It was going to be the 20-year reunion. And so I was looking around on this page, and, it was really cool. Someone had taken time to post some old pictures. So naturally, just like anyone would do, you probably wonder, well, hey, am I in any of those pictures? So you would log on to the Facebook page and see what you could find. And so I was kind of doing that. And I can't remember if this fella had commented or if I thought of him. I really don't know. But it was something that came to mind. And here's the thing, when I was a kid, I grew up in a Christian home. But until I was 18, I was in college at the time. I wouldn't say that I was a Christian person. I had some modicum of belief, but I wasn't practicing, if that makes sense. And one of the things you do as a Christian is you repent, that is to feel sorry and to try to make right sin, that you've committed in your life. I mean, it's impossible to make right, but you try to be at peace with both God and man. That's kind of the idea. So during that time, especially when I first became a Christian, I mean, there was a lot of soul searching, for me, trying to remember people I had wronged, and I wanted to go back and apologize to them, and, if I had stolen something, try to pay them back, that kind of thing. And maybe I hadn't got to this person, and like I say, my memory as a kid was that I had already taken care of it, back when I was just a dunderhead kid. But anyway, for however it happened, he came to mind, and so I thought, well, if I'm going to see him at this reunion or whatever, maybe I'll just try to reach out to him and make sure, there's nothing between us. And it had been literally 20 years, since, oh, come on, get up. 20 years since I'd seen him. I mean, I still haven't seen him in the flesh. I mean, I've seen his picture, on Facebook or whatever. So I think I reached out to him and, I brought up the incident. And maybe that was mistake number one, was bringing it up. I really don't know. But I told him, I said, I can't remember if I apologized at the time. I wanted to make sure to apologize and ask you, if you could find it in your heart to forgive me. I said that was really foolish what I did, and I just want to make sure there's nothing between us. Something to that effect. And what proceeded to happen is something that still baffles me, to this day. His recollection was totally different from mine. He didn't remember, well, if he did, he never said. I mean, once I saw his response, it was as if he had lived with that moment as raw and as hurting as it ever was, and built it into some things that never happened. And it was my first glimpse, really, as an adult, as to the power of the human mind. And I gotta say, it threw me for a loop too, a major loop. I don't think he accepted my apology. It was as if he wanted to relive every detail of it and be angry. So that's what he did. But he didn't stop there. He started accusing me of things that I couldn't remember. Things that he said I had done to him. And, what do you tell someone that's hurting? And maybe, I can't remember if we've talked about this before, but I think it's a truism in life. Perception is reality. And if you perceive something to be true or to have happened, to you it is true. The facts, never mind the facts. Kind of like some will say sometimes, don't confuse me with the facts. Let me believe whatever I want to believe. So he remembered things just vividly of times where he said I had picked on him, done things at times and places I was just clueless on. And I gotta say, it so threw me for a loop that his version of what had happened back in the day was so different from my memories. It shook me so hard. I talked to several people, including my own brothers, who I had genuinely bullied back in the day, being a stupid idiot older brother. And I asked them and said, this friend I had from high school is bringing up all these things, and I can't remember them. So I started asking around, do you remember me having done this? I think I even talked to my parents, if they'd ever heard from the school or any complaints. I talked to some other friends of mine, took a couple of them out to lunch, and said, do you remember me doing this? Or picking on this person? And not a single one said they could. They said, that's not who you were. You didn't do those things. But yet, this is what the person told me, when I reached out to him. And that's always just stuck out to me as, like, oh shoot, I gotta pay attention. Gotta remember, I'm combining. Because, to this day, it's still, I'm still baffled by it and troubled by it to a certain degree as to what in the world happened. Like I say, I think I did hear that people picked on him. I can't say that I personally witnessed it. I just remember hearing that, that it happened. And I feel bad about that too. And a part of me wonders, looking back, if I had witnessed people literally picking on him, what would I have done? I'd like to believe I would have tried to come to his defense because I considered him a friend. And that's probably what's so befuddling about all of this is he was seething with hatred, basically, that whole time. And I mean, he hid it very well. Or like I say, maybe it was something. The mind is a powerful thing. I've since seen this dynamic in another person that I know who claimed she was abused by various people. And it's the same thing. Some investigation has gone into it, and it isn't true. But somehow, it's true to the person who went through it. Now, what causes that? I mean, is it mental illness? Is it... And I'm probably no different from anyone else, or maybe you don't do this. I've had many robust conversations in my mind, with people I'm at loggerheads with. And it's really stupid, right? If you really want to solve a problem, you should get the other person in the same room and you talk with each other and you iron out your differences. But when you sit there and say, and it's a horrible conversation. It's very mean-spirited, vindictive. You say, well, this person say this, then I would reply with that, and burn them or whatever. Maybe most of us are too mature to admit, we would ever engage in such a thing. And like I say, it's just ludicrous. All right, full steam ahead. But I have done that before. But I'm careful to keep that separate from reality. If those things never happen, and usually it happens kind of a knee-jerk type of thing, right? It just starts happening in the head, and pretty soon, it's like I'm absent-mindedly thinking it or whatever, and then at some point I'll come to my senses, and it's like, what in the Sam Hill are you thinking? This is lunacy. And I'll turn it off. Because it is. It is just dumb. Because it's fake, it never happened. But I wonder, are there people who do that kind of thing, with whatever self-voice you have, the inner dialogue, whatever it's called, are there people that do that to where the act becomes reality? And I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I think of it many times, as our world starts to change in ways. I mean, we've never been here before in history. We all know what fake pictures are. Those have always been around. Well, now, there's the concept of deep fakes out there where not only can they make false pictures of you, they can put up videos of you as if you said something when you never said that thing. And I just wonder, how far off are we to where reality is so doggone confused, we no longer are able to tell where the truth is. And I gotta say, with a Christian worldview, the Bible talks about that particular day coming. Even where people will go from sea to sea looking for truth and they won't be able to find it. And one of the most famous utterances, when Jesus was crucified, Pilate said there, he had this mob of people yelling, "Crucify him, crucify him." And he there is the Roman governor, if you will, or whatever he was. They're all telling him, you need to crucify or kill this guy, because if you don't, we're going to tell Caesar, and you're going to lose you'll get in trouble, basically. And so he has all this rabble around him, telling him to crucify this man, Jesus. And he asks Jesus, well, what have you done? Jesus doesn't say anything, at least initially. He at some point he says, well, yes, I'm the king of the Jews. He says his kingdom isn't from this world. And anyway, all these things that were alleged, nobody had proof in this whole rabble-rousing crowd. So then the famous thing that Pilate said, was, what is truth? I think he said this right to Jesus. And, to a Christian, we read that and say, well, you had the truth sitting right there in front of you, and you missed him too. But I don't think his question is irrelevant. Honestly, he probably didn't know which end was up. He has all these people telling him, hey, here's a heinous criminal, you need to deal with him. And Pilate's trying to follow the law, whatever there was. He isn't able to prove it, and yet all these people are alleging all these things. It's kind of like I've said before. I mean, when you read the Bible, it reads very modern because, people, none of us have changed in our ambitions, our temperaments, our proclivities, whatever it is. We just haven't changed since those times. And so the lessons are very appropriate even for today. But he asked that question thousands of years ago, what is truth? And here we are again, in our more modern era, we would say smarter, and well, we know things that those people didn't back in that day. But do we really? When you look at a news article, how do you know it's the truth? Or when you pull up a video on YouTube and you see some politician or somebody, anybody saying something, how do you know it's the truth? With here in America, with the two political parties constantly at each other's throat, and politics being such the dirty game that it is, it just makes you, I don't know how people engage in it, because I don't see how you can without coming out filthy yourself. But there is such acrimony and animosity towards people who have a different view. And people say, well, this is my truth, and you have your truth. And, well, the way I look at it is there's only one truth, and, maybe a number of us, we have different perspectives, but there still is only one truth. Something's either true or it isn't. But point being, it's harder and harder to tell, what is accurate and what isn't. So, for my high school friend, I just wonder, was his... It was a really hard conversation. I was just in shock reading what he said I had done. It's one thing, most of us know the feeling of when we get called on the carpet for something we know good and well that we have done. Where we have messed up, and that don't feel good. I'm not here to say that it does, but there's a part of us that says, okay, yeah, I did that, and this person, as much as I hate it, is just for bringing that up. But what do you do if you can't remember it? Or if it's of something made up, in the person's mind? And some of it, I think, he was bringing up other things too. I got a scholarship. It was a nice scholarship to a university down there, and he brought that up. Well, you got this, and I didn't. Well, I didn't know he was competing for that scholarship too, and for whatever reason, they didn't pick him. He would have been a good choice, but that isn't what happened. Well, so I'm wondering if, that incident just caused something to snap in his mind, and then therefore anything afterwards that I did or that I was connected with was just bad, evil to him. And it just built upon itself over all those years, and I don't know if reaching out to him was the right thing to do. I don't know now if what he thinks of me. After someone treats you that way, if it's not true, would you want to stick around and be friends with that person? I can't say that I wanted to. So we are Facebook quote friends, and the only reason I haven't unfriended him is I don't want him to have one more thing, to accuse me of, if he's watching that kind of thing. And I haven't unfriended anybody that I can recall anyhow. Whoop! Oh, there I was. Went through it again. So, I gotta say, and I don't know if this was a right decision, I still haven't been to a high school reunion. And part of it is, I don't want to go there and come face to face with this person and have it first thing provoke I was going to say fight. I wouldn't fight him. I would literally just leave. But I don't want to cause problems for anybody. And nor, occasionally you will hear, and maybe this only happens here in America, but occasionally you'll hear where some psycho comes to events like this and they bring a gun and they blow a bunch of people away. Well, if I'm going there and taking my family, that's not something I'm interested in precipitating. I'm not trying to make an accusation. It's just after he went ballistic and imagined things and never happened, the last thing I want to do is come into the same room with him and have him do something maybe we both would regret. And I don't know, maybe I'm just paranoid at this point, but I don't know. What would you do if you had been through something like this and you were dealing with someone who didn't, well, of course he could probably say the same thing to me. Well, you're just not remembering all the bad things you've done. Well, I know that's probably true. I probably haven't remembered every bad thing that I've done. Let me tell you, the offenses I've done towards people, with malice, I don't know that a person just easily forgets those. And some of you listening may say, well, this wasn't that big a deal. Well, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I will definitely say this is not the worst thing that I've ever done. But anyway, I'm not that interested in coming across him in real life, so I have stayed away from high school reunions. What would you do? Anyway, thank you so much for listening to me tell my silly story from days of old. Hope you all are having a good day. As we all heard, the bell went off, so I'll leave you all with this. Have a great day. Bye-bye.